Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr.Gabriella, and I'm here with a dear friend from Australia, Janin Linzowski, and she has been writing amazing stories in Dancing Elephant Press, and today we are going to talk about the stories that shape us. And she wrote a story that we published this month, July, on the 20th, on Substack, and that is going to be our starting conversation. So, Janin, can you tell me what compelled you about storytelling and the stories that shape us?
Thank you, Gabriella, for inviting me. Maybe for everyone else, this is my first or maybe second in my lifetime podcast, so I am a little bit nervous. I'm not sure how to do it, but I will do my best. So I'm sorry, I didn't get the beginning of the question. It's about this.
Yeah, so you titled this story, "The Stories That Shape Us." So, and we talked about, you and I talked about multiple times about storytelling and the importance of storytelling. So, why this is so important to you? Why the stories that shape us important to you and the storytelling?
So, what I noticed, quite often already in a younger age, people always told me I was different, but also very often that I am quite mature for my age. And also now I laugh a lot. I live as if I had never had troubles. I don't have any regrets whatsoever. There is no one thing which I regret, and I went through a lot of difficult times in my life. There were times it's practically now I am starting talking about because it was so traumatic that it was easier for me to push it away from my mind until I was ready or mature enough to process it. So I started thinking, what's the reason behind it that so many people have regrets? So I noticed also already as younger person that I love to be with elderly people. And what I noticed is that some of them were very happy, genuine, but very often they got very bitter. It's made me then think, what is the difference between those people and also myself compared to others? I started also watching younger generations, so a little bit the kids from my sister, but also from my friends, and trying to think what is the difference. What I realized is that already as a kid, I was told a lot of stories. Mm-hmm. So my life revolved around stories. My grandpa would talk to me about his childhood and his life. And my dad, my mom, everybody tells me the story. And especially about my grandpa and my dad, they never told me what to do. They always said, we tell you the story. Mm-hmm. We tell you, give you an example. And it is up to you to make your conclusion. These are the facts. This is what happened. This is what the people did. This is the outcome. And then later in life, even as a teenager, I met Miss Davidovich, and she was an amazing lady. She really helped me a lot. It was in a very difficult time, which I had, and she was like my safe harbor. In the time when everybody was telling me what I should do, that I was wrong, especially, unfortunately, my mom, who didn't understand me very well. I don't want to say anything bad about my mom because she's a great person. She really looked after me when I was little. I was born with some defects, and she did what she could to help it, and I appreciate it very much. And now I have good relationship with my mom. But there was the time that it was constant pressure telling me what I should do. Mm-hmm. While Miss Davidovich, Miss Maria, was my safe harbor. She never told me like what to do. I said something like, for example, complain about something, or I was hurt, or whatever happened. She never replied, "Oh, you should do X, Y." She like kind of maybe even very like relaxed started to tell me some story from her life, which I then started connecting and seeing the similarities, even like on emotional level, for example, to my life.
Yeah.
And was able to draw my conclusions. So it went through life. And there were many more people. As I said, I loved being surrounded with the elderly because they had the stories to tell. And it was not only like a headline on something, oh, this is happening now. I could see what happened, how they deal with it, and what are the consequences years later. So there is situation, event, there is some reaction to it, and there is all the processing until we come to today. So this was like helping me a lot. Now when I look, even myself, like going sometimes or reading articles, it is the most articles is almost like how to, so what we should do. Not to mention that a lot of other these are just like headlines or the short stories, TikTok videos, snapshots on Instagram, and so on. They give just a couple of one-liners. There is no context. There is no journey, nothing. It's just do this, do that. And people tend to jump from, okay, I am following this person. These are great. 3 weeks later, I am following someone else. 3 weeks later, someone else. And sometimes I think in this journey, like jumping from one information or headline to another, we are kind of starting to lose ourselves. And I'm not sure if I am right or wrong. I can be completely wrong, but this is what I think. Okay, I was lucky to have the ability to see the various situations, various scenarios from the beginning to the end, meaning years, decades later, which I could build then like my own, like evolve the skills of decision making, because I could see, okay, my situation is similar to a story of these 5 people. These 5 people did these 5 different decisions, and it led to these 5 different outcomes. And I had some input to do my own decision for myself. While I struggle to see how it would be like possible, we don't know. We see, okay, you do X, Y, and this is what you achieve. But then I have also other question. Sometimes I feel like reading the advices, it is like an eagle talking to a turkey, saying, no, you do it wrong. You dig in the edge. You should be flying high in the sky. And the poor turkey sits there regretting it can't fly. And at the end, instead of getting better as a turkey, it tries to fly and it fails at the end.
Yeah.
So it is like,
I think that's very important that you have to take advice with a grain of salt, because everybody might have a different situation. But if you share your story, something that happened in your life or something you had heard from somebody else, that might help somebody correlate to see how they can use that in their life. But just giving advice, it's kind of like black and white, and one might be a circle, another one is a triangle, and they just don't fit together exactly. But I agree that stories, they just have some kind of magical woven connection that can be brought out. I think the attention span that you mentioned is definitely a big problem. Many people, even I notice in my YouTube channel, that a lot of people do the shorts. There's a lot of view of the shorts, but not as many of the longer videos or longer conversations. And unfortunately, that kind of takes it out of the context too, because you might see the little snippet of, let's say, something I made, but I have a longer video that connects to it that actually shows how I made it. But from, let's say, the 1,100 views who looked at my little smoothie that I made, only maybe 10 looks at the actual process of how something was made. And I think that it's kind of like similar in storytelling. It's important to listen and get that story from our elders, and not necessarily just elders, because anybody can share their stories, like we share stories in our women's group. But it's good to share and learn from each other instead of just seeing those snippets and trying to draw a conclusion from that of how that might relate to your life.
Exactly. So the context is so important.
Yeah.
Because like when you mentioned the snippets and the smoothie, so this kind of example which I can relate, because when I was back at my sister in March and with my niece, we should make a smoothie or something very simple. And I told her, okay, you go and tell me what you want to do. She goes on a TikTok, scroll, we do this one. Okay, we are about to do, oh, maybe this is not the best one. Scroll, maybe we do this one. And it went for 10 or 15 minutes, and then me and my sister got involved in the discussion just to decide which smoothie to make.
Yeah.
And spend, and like not even the decision what I would like to eat. Say it's blueberry smoothie or something.
Yeah.
To have something, but no. Yeah, scroll. Nice.
Yeah, I'm very happy right now with all the berries in the garden, but yeah, it's a big problem today in society. I just read an article that somebody wrote, and they were saying, like, when they go to the doctor office or anywhere where you sit and wait, everybody is on their phone instead of having a conversation. I remember when I was a child and there were no cell phones, and if you went to the doctor office or traveled in a train or waited or sit on the bus, you had conversations with people and had discussions, and you learned a lot of interesting things about people and their life or whatever story they've shared. Now everybody is on their phone, and it's kind of a scarcity. It's kind of rare when you actually can have a conversation with somebody, so.
That's so true. Yeah, I remember, like, first when I came to Australia, like 20 years ago, in the first few years, it was that I walk, even if I was in Brisbane, so even there, walking on the street, sometimes somebody came and said, oh, I noticed you walk in the same direction, so let's go together, we can have a chat.
Yeah.
So Australians are very, like, casual. In my little town here, it's still similar. So in the coffee shops, you notice sometimes people on the phones, but this will be usually tourists. Like locals will have much more conversations. So this is nice. And like even this Friday, it so happened that I finished work earlier, so I'm now by myself at home. George is traveling, so usually I don't go earlier to town. I'm not a person like into the coffee shops, but somehow I finished work and I thought, okay, I have a bit just relaxation. And my plan was initially to do some like stories which I write for like Instagram stories, but I decided just to sit for a while and watch people. And it was kind of very interesting experience in itself, because then I noticed I was elderly lady passing, and she approached a couple, and she started like talking. Oh, you are a visitor here, and they said, yeah, we came like from Brisbane for the weekend. And then she started telling her story, how she has been living already here for like 65 years. So she was the local and telling a bit about her stories. Then another couple came and started talking with the owner of the shop. And so I got to know, oh, these people actually came to the area only 4 years ago. So they are quite new. And yeah, so it was like a little parts of information, but when you heard all these people talking, half of them locals, half of them newcomers or just tourists, it built a nice picture all together. Even this was more entertaining than sitting on the phone.
Absolutely. And I think also it's important that when you sit down with somebody, like even know that right now we are on the phone and recording this because we are literally across continents. We are very far away from each other. So on that notion, the technology is amazing, that we can do this. But when you're on your phone all the time, it's not good for the brain, because it's just too much information, and it's different if you watch something to learn something. Like if you watch a video or how to make a certain food or how to fix something or how to build something or that's different, or you listen to something. But if you're doing what you were mentioning, the continuous scrolling, that's too much for our brain. Our brain cannot process that much information, and then that can create all kinds of problems of anxiety and depression and difficulty sleeping, and just also kind of a false image of what we're supposed to be. It's almost like it takes away from life, because in real life we have chores, we have work, we do the garden or whatever you do in your daily life, and it's so easy to get lost in the social media that people don't realize. A friend recently said, well, I don't usually do this, but I started to scroll and I looked up, and 45 minutes later I just realized how much time it went by. And people don't even know, and they can be on just scrolling, and it's not even something that they really want to watch. It just kind of, they get lost in the scrolling and all this,
it's
like
kind of addiction.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like with technology, we are on the phone, but we use the phone to connect us. We are together. You have your phone, I have my phone, but we are talking to each other.
Yes.
While the scrolling, it's disconnecting. It's isolating us from the people around us. It is not connecting us with others because we are scrolling through so many posts, something. And as you said, it is fake image because majority is showing the perfect snippets of their life. So it's actually part of which I am like determined to do, maybe not a trend, but what I am like doing on my Instagram. Now it's mainly the stories only, but I want to also do posting when I have more time, but showing the real life. So even when I chat with a group of people on X, they love the AI-made images. They looked perfect. I will reply with my own images from the farm, from the walk with the dog, because this is real life. What happens. This is something which makes us as like humans, when we look at something like this, we say, okay, that's part of life. While all these perfect images, pictures, makes I like wishing to live in a fantasy world. Nothing wrong with a fairy tale picture here and there. Fairy tale have their place in our life.
Yes.
And a magic is necessary. But when they replace real life, this is where I think the problem especially starts. We are talking about all these mental health issues and how that life is now so hard. When I go back into my childhood, growing up with in communism, we had martial law. I'm sure you in your country had also not easy when you grew up. This, I think, okay, life was really tough then because you really needed to fight to survive, to get food. This wasn't even granted, standing in queues for hours. It wasn't that stressful. Life wasn't definitely stressful, but it is also what I get back to the stories. People in all these difficulties and hardship of life, people had time to connect with each other, to share their stories. And yes, there was no phone, but it is not a fault of the technology. We can say, oh, the kids are sitting too much on the phone now. But okay, do they have their grandparents to talk to? Do they have their parents to talk to? Or the parents are busy at work, and when they come home, they are so tired, and they themselves are sitting on the phone. And the grandparents are in different country or on different continents, because life had changed that much as well. We could use even the phone to connect with the grandparents and share the stories.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually, many times I'm worried about the next generation, but I'm sure that our grandparents were worried about us. But I do remember growing up, we were sent out to play outside, and I see now so many kids, they don't even go outside, So I really admire parents who take the kids to the park, who, tell them to go outside and spend time outside in nature, because nature is so healing. And I try to do what I try to do in my work and my stories is reconnect everything with nature, because I do feel that nature also has a story to tell. Walking amongst the trees in the forest, I feel like they speak to me just like, humans speak to me. They just show a different language of the beautiful colors, the calm feeling that you feel when you walk in the forest or in the trees, or when you go out and garden. And I think so many people get disconnected from the forest, from the trees, from the gardens, from the earth, from the animals. Animals are also so kind and loving, and my little chickens follow me around, and about your rescue animals too, and the dogs and the cats. I have a cat purring behind me, a dog on the porch, and a chickens walking around out here. They like to be around you, and that's also different language and a different story to tell, that there's more to life than just humans too. Human connection is important, but also connecting with nature and kind of like pausing and slowing down instead of the fast pace of society and the fast scrolling of social media. As you were saying, that's not real. That's kind of a fake life. And then, you and I know that we show our authentic selves on a YouTube or a podcast, but a lot of people, don't show themselves. They create AI images, or they create fake voices, or they alter their image of how they naturally look like. So you don't really know what's real and what's not real anymore, which I think is just really scary, honestly.
Exactly. So one is the looks and voices, but what is they create the life, which so write about their story as such, or snippets of their story, but they present it as a perfect life and how perfect everything is in their life. I knew, this is few years, 2-3 years back, there was a couple, and the showing how perfectly marriage can work. So I knew the friend of this couple. The reality was that the husband couldn't stand it anymore, being trapped in this marriage. It was the lady was running the show, and everything had to be perfect, the perfect holidays and perfect pictures on the Instagram, how it all works on the outside. And he couldn't get out because the business was booming. So I found it kind of funny and ironic that the reality is it is a trapped, unhappy business, and nobody can leave it, because the business would fail and the financial consequences were too terrible for them. So it was to which extreme it can go. I'm not saying everybody is doing it, but in this case, because I knew the friend of this couple, so this is how I knew the real story. And sometimes I was pointed to anonymous posts written actually by the husband, who couldn't say his name, but telling what the reality was. So
and I think that's important to note that us humans, we are not perfect, and that is okay.
Exactly.
And when you see this perfectly puzzled picture, or a woman with the perfect makeup, perfect this, perfect that, it's like, that's not how we normally look in life. Like, okay, you might dress up and look pretty if you go to a cinema or opera or something like that.
Yeah.
But normally we wear work clothes and go to work and dig in the garden or whatever we do, and don't wear makeup and not all pretty with our nails and all these kind of things. And that's just kind of like an image from a movie or something like that. But normal people, everyday life, we don't look like that. We don't look all
exactly,
perfect. And I've seen people too who go to the photo and make all these like perfect pictures of graduation and perfect pictures of family gatherings and all this kind of stuff. And I was never the fan of it. I more like natural. Okay, we go out for a walk and we snap a picture. I like that, instead of like, no, you stand this way and have your hair this way. And
yeah, exactly. So my dad was very strong to not have perfect pictures. He loved camera, so I guess it is genetically I inherited it from him. It's why I like photography. But it was never pictures that we had to pose, or very rarely that we had to pose for pictures. That was usually somewhere behind us, and we were, oh, Dad, come on. And he was just following us and taking snapshots of real life. And it is so beautiful now, because we have photos from our childhood, like a real childhood and teenage years, and the same with meeting with the family. Okay, of course, sometimes we sit all at the table, but even then it is like, okay, we just sat and the photo is taken. So it very like,
it's not said, okay, now casual. You smile, now you look pretty, now you do
exactly
this. Because that's not
like this.
Kids don't like to stand still and smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like one more thing with this, with looking perfect. So because, as you know, I work as IT consultant. So when I go to the office, I have perfect either suit or pencil dress, makeup, hair done, and like this. But when I work from home, I am looking like this on the camera, and sometimes it is hilarious because I come to the office, and when there are new people, they don't recognize me even. We met on the camera. Or somebody told me, oh, you look in the office much better than you look at home. And I said, office rule, home, my rules.
Yeah.
That's it. And everybody then accepts it. And I think what is even more interesting, because I don't get like ashamed or scared or like intimidated by the comments. People start respecting me even more because this shows strong character. They see I adjust to work, but I don't care how you see me when I am at home. When I started work here, I told you, I live on a farm. I won't be dressing up in a pencil dress and a makeup surrounded by birds and dogs and cows. Yes? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because even if I work, I have lunch break where I go outside, or I have some other breaks or calls which I take while I go on for a walk. Because my job allows this to do, and everybody knows when I start.
Yeah.
What are my rules for this contract? So it's
I'm looking at the story that you wrote, and you have a section here that you're talking about the grandparents, and the grandparents, how they carry you call it remarkable stories, and our neighbors and parents and friends and people we meet every day. And you're saying, which I think is really important, that it's not rare that they have the stories, but the place and the time that they share them and how we listen to them. And it's really interesting because I had this thought yesterday, and I was talking to my dad this morning, and we are going to start having conversations and record them like this as podcasts with my dad, because I want him to tell me stories about his childhood, his life, grandparents, all that. And he agreed. So we're going to start this coming Monday, and I'm going to have story time with my dad. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to capture those stories. And, I did some recordings of some people who now are not with us. And it's so nice to listen back to those recordings and hear their voice, even if they are not in this plane, but hear their thoughts one more time and be able to listen. I still have some people's voice messages on my phone who have passed. And occasionally I listen back to it, and it just say, checking in, how are you, and love you, and or this or that. And, I think it is a huge importance to listen to these stories and take time for them, to reach out to those family and friends and connect with the neighbors and listen to each other's stories. It's just creates like this community and closeness, and I think just you become more human in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it perfectly makes sense. Exactly. I think it is exactly like big part of our problem, our civilization, and this actually research is being done on this, that because the technology evolved very quickly, we humans, but we didn't evolve this quickly. So we are like behind the technology, and we still along. We are like humans, but we try to be up to date with technology. Mm-hmm. And it is why we are getting like lost in the middle, because we miss the connection. This is also like I often hear, life is, and people are now so different. And my first question is, okay, are we so different from our great grandparents? Does it mean we don't eat anymore, we don't need to sleep? Or does it mean we are not longing for connections? We don't want to have friendships, love? Don't we need this anymore? Mm-hmm. Obviously, we need it all. It's just now, like we or our parents, grandparents, and so on, they didn't have social media, but they have real friends. So my dad still has a friend. They are friends for like 60 years or longer. So it's really a lifetime and real friends. And the others aren't there because they passed away. But they were a group of few people who, first few young men met at the university, and some even before university. Then they got married, the families got close, and this friendship went through lifetime until people then pass away, because my dad is 87 already. But I think it is similar. People need this. It's why they go to so many therapies. It's great that there is jobs for counseling and various therapists. How I kind of joke, but if we had friends through friendships, then it is practically what counseling is now very often replaced. Obviously, we have to be careful because there are two sides to it. Sometimes it's really such a bad situation that people need professional help.
Yes.
But very often, if friendship was at the beginning, it wouldn't get that bad. So I think, like, as humans, we didn't change that much. Technology changed, life changed, all around us has changed. But we humans still are humans, but we are missing being humans. So, as you said, the connections make us more humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to your story, you give an example that just like we talked about the smoothie or the little thing of the TikTok that just shows a little part. In your story, you mentioned that a snippet might say that the marriage has ended, but the story might say where they started, what they believed, decisions they made, what happened after, what they learned, and how their life continued. It might show the loneliness, the choices, the forgiveness, courage, and the beginning of the happier life. So you give some examples, like if someone failed, the marriage ended, or a snippet tells us what's happened, but the story, you're saying, it helps us understand why it happened. And I think that is just so important. And in America here, I was really surprised that when I came here, in Hungary, when I grew up, if somebody asked, how are you? You started to talk to them. People, they say, hi, how are you? And walk away. So I didn't really understand it. And then when I was working the last few years, I started to change that. And I actually said something shocking, usually. So people stop. It's like, what? I'm like, yeah. And, and then this happened. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, uh-huh. And actually kind of forced a little bit people to like, what? Oh, okay, I'll come back. I have to run. I'll come back. I want to hear the story. Because, if you ask me how I am and just walk away, then why are you even asking me how I am? Then you just say hi or bye or say whatever you want, but don't ask me how I am and walk away. I never fully understood that, so I started to kind of play it up and well, actually
it's similar here in Australia. I think because some parts I was told that it's following America, so it depends where in Australia. But when in the country someone here in the shops asks you how are you, it means they want conversation.
Yeah.
So, but when it happens in the city or somewhere on the coast, it is like saying hello. So I do exactly the same what you do, that I answer their question. Sometimes they are shocked, and sometimes they just get into conversation.
Yeah.
Quite often, actually, I had even situations that people like, because for example, I reply, yeah, I am well, how are you? And there was like a shock in their face. I thought, oh, I am actually not too bad, but I am surprised that you asked.
But you asked me.
You asked me.
Yeah.
So it's, like little change, but sometimes actually these little things, the one person, it is what we talk so much also on social media. You see all the posts that one person can change someone's days and life.
Yeah.
It is almost slogans, but I have so often a situation in real life that it is really like happening. It is shock for the person. So as an example, I wrote also stories about it when once a lady came from the First Nation lady and asked for money for food. So I replied, okay, you say you are hungry, you haven't eaten, then I don't give you money, but I take you, eat whatever you want to eat. And she was a bit surprised. And she said, okay, so I want like in McDonald's. For a second, I was like, thought, oh, great. Now she probably buy half of the McDonald's there and I will pay a fortune. But so whatever I said I do, so I go with her. On the walk, we had actually a really nice chat. And here in Australia, First Nation people are being very judged. It is true that in the remote areas, the alcohol is a problem and there is a lot of issues in this part. But everybody has their stories. And when this lady was
there's a
telling
reason.
Me her story,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, it's the reason. And then I also thought, we could connect. So when I thought about it, now we are from completely different backgrounds, worlds, and here living in very different lives. Like, because she's homeless practically on the street, I managed to have a good life and good job and so on. But as humans, we connected, and there were stories which overlapped. And when we went to the McDonald's, so she just wanted one hamburger, and then she asked even, could I have also something to drink? And I was like almost taken aback. I said, of course, I told you, I buy you a meal, whatever you want. You can have a dessert and so on. And I said, no, just a hamburger and a drink. And then she was so grateful and really thanking me and saying the same, that I changed her day and actually her life in some respect, because in this case, white person treated her as another human being, which for her was simply completely out of this planet, because being First Nation person and homeless, so nobody would talk to her, especially not in the city. So it was like one story, and I had quite a few of these type of stories. Another time I was with Ciara, and some lady came and asked me for a chocolate. We were passing like boutique shop with chocolates. And I said, okay, I buy you chocolate, but you can choose one chocolate in the shop. And we went together. Ciara was shocked. How did you know that this person is all right? Oh, I don't know. I just could sense she would be all right. And this chocolate, I bought her the chocolate, and it made her so very happy. So this is little things. Mm-hmm. And also, like, this person obviously had also her story, which wasn't a great story. And we are not born as we end up to be alive, and the society often makes us to who we become at the end. So it's why the stories again, why even with strangers, even if we could easily judge these people, all these people have their stories. And then also very often they will be to us as we are to them, as we approach them. Obviously, we have to be also careful, not that somebody thinks
of course. but I think there's usually a gut feeling or a sensation.
Exactly.
You know, when two people connect, if this is okay or if this is not okay. And just when you were saying First Nations and alcoholism, you know, that hits really close to home for me, because I had alcoholism in my family, but also I worked as an addiction nurse for a very long time, and we also worked with tribal people here and women who were pregnant, who were addicted, and seen just a lot of people. And I do believe that nobody wants to be an addict. You know, nobody wants to be an alcoholic. Nobody wants to be homeless. But there could be life circumstances that happen. And yes, people can make a choice, and we are humans, and sometimes we make wrong choices, you know, but it doesn't mean that you should not be kind and connect with people. I given away food, you know, and things like that, and but saw people asking. I didn't say anything, but went to the store and came out with an extra bag of food for them or whatever, you know, because if I can help a little bit, so I don't want somebody to be hungry or if you can help it, because I can't even imagine how difficult that must be. I mean, I had grandparents who had to go through that, through war, and you said, like, you know, when you were growing up too, and luckily I didn't have that in my life. We always had food, you know, many times simple foods, but that was okay. But I cannot even imagine people who go through that, and I think it's important to stop and see and be a part of their story. Now that person, you just never know when a little kindness or a little humanity can change somebody's day, but it might change their life. They're like, oh my gosh, that person stopped. Maybe I can get help somewhere else, like to, you know, change my life. And you just never know what a kind action can do in life. And yeah, I believe stories are really important because of that. And on a happier note, you do stay in your story that you never worry, and people kind of are surprised by that. And then you, besides of the trauma and challenges you had, you always have a happy and a positive outlook. And I love that. And I do think that we humans can encounter so much that also people don't see just by looking at us. They can look at us and make an assumption, but if they want to get to know you as a person, they learn about your story, and they're like, can have a deeper understanding and a connection with each other. So I know many of your stories. You and I had similar trauma of some things happening in our life, with a fire in your farm, and for me a fire burning down my home, but also with some relationships and some other things. So I think, when you get to know a person, and we have some future life goals that are similar. So when you connect, and then we love the writing. So, when you connect with people and take the time to get to know them and read their stories and then meet them and talk with them, is just so enriching in your life as well.
Exactly. That's true. And here I also like to point to this, like that I never worry and I am happy. So happiness from gratitude. And this is here one to connect back to our previous stories. When I talk to the other people and hear their stories, it makes me deeply grateful for my life, because it doesn't matter how hard we work, there is always a little bit of luck involved. And also it's good reminder that anything can change at any time. Something can happen. So listening to the stories of these people who are less fortunate, that makes me appreciate more what I have, and also keeps me humble. And the other part is of that staying happy, because I had all these stories of the other people, like Pauline, who, for example, she told me, like, it was after a war, they were struggling. They had a house, but struggling to make ends meet. And then suddenly they had fire in the house, so storm came, hit the house, and killed the bull. For a farmer, the bull is the main investment. So it was a huge disaster. But then I look at her, and she's in her 90s, and she laughs like a teenager. Because she told me, it happened. But I had my Wally, so it was her husband. As I said, also mentioned in this story, that their marriage started as an affair, but it lasted for 6 years, and he was her strength and she was his strength. So they together went through life, and the bull got killed. They had some troubles, but they got another bull. They paid the debt off. They rebuilt. They were lucky that only part of the house burned. They had again friends and good people who came, helped them rebuild this section of the house, and life goes on. And looking at this gives hope, and especially it makes me feel, disaster, now something happened, but firstly, I am not alone. That's normal. That's happened to anyone. I know so many stories and so many people to whom it happened, yet they survived, they moved on, and they were happy. So this is also what is big part why I stay happy.
Yeah, and I do love that you connect happiness to gratefulness, and I think it's important to have the appreciation that yes, we still have a roof over our head, we have food to eat, which there's so many people in the world they don't, and
exactly.
Fortunately we are not in a conflict zone, as so many people are close to wars and conflicts. That is just so sad that people die for no reason in these wars, and there's so much greed and politics and all this in the life. But just going back to what you said, it is really important to appreciate what we have, and that we wake up every morning with a roof over our head and food to eat and keep warm, or be able to cool down if we need to, and have animals around us, and have, a beautiful place where you can plant new trees, even though the previous one burned down. And I believe that that's just a different way to look at happiness. It brings a different understanding, and more of an appreciation for life and what we have, and also not wanting more, to be content with what we have. And you don't need the next shiny car or the next pretty dress to be okay. Society try to push us that way, but it's not needed to have that happiness in our life.
Exactly. It's because like society, or especially all the media, is telling us all the time, you need to buy X, Y, Z, and then you will be happy. So then people will stress about work and to make more money, then get the next thing, still are not happy, and they see the next ad for the next thing they need to be happy. And it is endless journey without happiness, because we are always chasing then the next shiny thing, which anyway doesn't bring happiness.
And that's kind of an addiction, isn't it? I mean, and also some of the events is like, you have to buy this for Christmas or buy that for Valentine's Day and all those. And like, we started a tradition not to give gifts, but do a travel or do an event or something together, because that's more important, to appreciate each other every day and get together when we can, instead of buying gifts. And then if we give something, I love re-gifting, for example, or I love to give something that I make or I grow, because everybody needs food. So if I give fresh or dried or freeze-dried berries, or a painting I made, or something, or a book I wrote, I think that's way more meaningful than if you just pick up something in a store. Like, if you pick up a candle or make a candle, there's a difference.
Exactly. This is also what I appreciate the most, when people not give me something, but what. So, for example, like my neighbor 3 properties down, she gave me a bag of her friend grew. Oh, I forgot how the fruit is called, but it's orangey-looking fruit. Parmesan, I think.
Persimmon.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. Oh my God.
Yeah. I always forget the name. So, she brought this for me. She always or when she grows something on her property, and this is the best gift. And I always then think about her when I eat the fruit, or I take a photo, and then put start making collections of photos, because what I, for example, got from this person, or what connects around this one person when we met, and so on, because this gives me a connection to people, and it makes a story. Candle which is bought in the shop, just bought and given, when there is nothing special, as you said, if somebody makes the candle and thinks about me, or paint a picture thinking about me, this has much more value, because I see they gave me their time as well, and time is the most valuable thing. And candle I can buy in the shops as well, but the time, somebody's friendships, this is something I can't buy.
Absolutely.
No money can buy this.
Do you want to hear an amazing story about candles?
Yeah.
So I volunteer at the Medical Reserve Corps on the coast here. It's called Cannon Beach Medical Reserve Corps, and I've been with them close to 10 years. And about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, one of the members passed away, one of the doctors who we had. And I know him for all these years, and we all volunteer time to, in case of an emergency, be there and help people. And so we have trainings together and thing, and he was always really nice, and he loved horses. I loved horses, and sometimes he would go with his horse on the beach and let kids ride on his horse. And he was just a very nice man. He was called Dr. Robert Wayne, and we just called him Dr. Bob. Well, I had my injury, and when he died, I didn't have a chance to go to the funeral. I couldn't drive or had the ability to say goodbye. And earlier this year, I happened to pick up some paintings from a gallery where I had some paintings. And all of a sudden, and I was leaving, I had a feeling to go a certain way, which was different than how I would normally go. And it was later in the evening, like it was 6 o'clock, and usually things in this little area of Gerhardt be closed. But there was a sign of an estate sale. And that usually happens if somebody moves or somebody dies or something. And I walked by this estate sale, and the person was still there. And the first thing, they said, yeah, I'm still here, you can come in. The first thing I see on the table is Dr. Robert Wayne business card. And I'm like, what is this, that my dad's friend's business card doing here? It was like in a, what you put in a luggage, one of those things. And I went to, and I was just looking around. I'm like, I'm going to have to ask this person about this. Like, literally walking in on a table, there it was. I'm like, okay, so some reason I had to stop here and see this. So I walked a little bit more, and I do art. So then I found this looked like a crayon set, but I found out later it was an oil painting set, and I picked it up, and I was looking for the person to ask them what's going on with the card. And he said, I did his selling his stuff after he, and then his wife passed away soon after him, after their estate was sold, and a few things left of his that is here in this other estate sale. And this was like a year later, right, after this happened almost. Yeah. And he said, you are holding one of the things that was his. The oil crayons that you're holding was his. And I have a few more things that was his. And one of the things was a candle making set. And although I didn't have much money, I just felt like I need to buy, and because I didn't have a chance to say goodbye to him, I'm going to make him a candle with his own candle making set, and then burn it for him and his wife and say goodbye that way.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that I made some extra candles from the same set. And in the meantime, from another person, their husband passed away, who I know, and also know Bob. So I took one of the candles for her so she can burn it for her husband. And it was just so interesting, and I felt such a relief. I also got a beautiful big beach blanket, beach towel that was his. Because he so much liked the beach and go there with the horses, and I just felt like when my ankle is better and I'm going to go to the beach, I'm going to take this big beach blanket and just, look at the water for him and to celebrate his life. And it just felt so good to have something like that. But what are the odds that I went down that way, that I took that turn, his card was there, and it gave me a gift, the ability to say goodbye to him. And it's like something he left behind for me in a way, because I didn't have a chance to go to say goodbye to his funeral.
Yeah, that's true. This also like made me think, which I was like recently writing a note. I don't know if I publish it or not, but that our story doesn't end with the end of our life, because we become part of a story of another person. We always live. We are part of lives of other people because we meet other people, and like in this case, the Dr. Bob passed away, but he left the things to you. You remember him, and you share his story now with me, and so he is living through the stories still till today, and he will be continue living through written stories and so on.
Absolutely. And then one of the books that I wrote about emergency preparedness, he's one of the people it's been dedicated to. And yeah, I mean, people touch our life, and then when we share stories about them, you're right, they live on. So I think that's amazing. Well, we have talked a lot about storytelling. We've been talking to close to an hour. So I just wanted to see if there's anything else we want to say today, and also to let people know that we plan to do this once a month. Share a story first online, and then talk about it. So, yay!
Yeah, exactly. So I think for today we talked long enough, and yeah. So it was lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much, Gabriella.
Also, Jenny, it was so nice to talk to you, and I'm also really grateful for you. And we have some projects planned in for the future. But we met each other through a writing platform and online, and get to know each other through each other's stories. So I think that would be a great finish for today. That, you know, it is so wonderful because you can meet somebody through writing and then get to know them and then talk to them in person. And hopefully one day we'll meet in person as well. So thank you so much for being part of my story. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Until next time, take care and have a beautiful day.